Hi everyone and welcome back to your weekly installment of the Top 10. These are the hottest selling cards in Magic the Gathering this week, October 5th to October 12th of 2024. Now in today's video we're going to see a lot of, well, kind of normal numbers, but there is some interesting cards we do need to talk about because some of the sales of these cards are starting to take off. So let's get the party started. Hi everyone and welcome back. mtgnews here, and thank you again for stopping by my channel so we can discuss the hottest selling cards in Magic the Gathering this week. A reminder that if you enjoyed today's content, you liked hanging out with the Moxman, you like this information, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. You can also support me by using my TCG player affiliate link that is found in the description of this video, or all of my videos for that matter. Now let's get to the number 10 card. And this week it is Bloom Burrow's, that's right, Patchwork Banner. Now this card has been here since the pre-release stuff was going on. A lot of players saw the options of this card, but that's not the most interesting thing about this card. Yes, it's highly utilized. Yes, it gets played in Commander. It's getting played in Standard. There's a lot more going on. 658 sales isn't a lot. $3,092 is the total sales action, but the card's $4.70. Keep that in mind. This card is still, as an uncommon, continuing to rise in value. It's probably going to break the $5 mark. It's something to keep in mind. Now, as an artifact, it comes into play. You choose a creature type. Creatures of the chosen type get +1/+1. Great utilitarian purpose. But then you can also tap to add color, any color you want to your mana pool. Sorry, a little word salad there. But adding one color of any mana plus getting the +1/+1, good options on that card. Now our next card is Hull Breacher. Yeah, the thing's been banned, but there's a lot of secondary action with this card right now. And that is really because of the rules committee now, kind of disbanding, and Wizards of the Coast now coming to the forefront. A lot of players are hedging their bets that cards like this may become unbanned at some point, and getting this card for $6.20 is a pretty good deal, I got to admit. And I can see why players would buy 4 copies. 726 sales is also pretty respectable. Now, when we look at the Hull Breacher, it's a 3 casting cost. Merfolk Pirate, that's a 3/2 with flash. If an opponent would draw a card except the first one they draw on each of their draw steps, instead you create a treasure token. That's a pretty awesome ability, guys. You guys know why people like this. It got abused a lot, but you know what? This whole thing about the top tier, right? The bracket 4, bracket 5 possibly, means cards like this could become unbanned. We don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But players are hedging their bets, and that's why the sales are as high as they are. Now, for our next card, we're dropping into number 8 to take a look at the Roing Vortex, and that's from Zendikar Rising. Now, ever since we had the Duskmourn drop with those commander decks, this card has seen a lot of action. 812 sales, which puts us at $5,123.72. The card's averaging now $6.31. This thing was like $1 a month ago. Look how high this thing has risen. And it's because of how players can utilize it inside Commander. Let's take a closer look at the card. Now, for 1 red and 1 generic, or just 1 of any other color mana, this enchantment says, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, Roiling Vortex deals 1 damage to them. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, it deals 5 damage to them. You can also pay a red and make it so your opponents can't gain life. This thing is a brutal card on its own. It was great in Standard, and now it's finding a real home in Commander, and that's really driving the sales home for a lot of players. And even at this price point, it's still selling a lot of copies. That's something to keep in mind, which makes it primed for a reprint, probably sooner rather than later, maybe even a pre-con Commander deck. Now for our next card, we have Enduring Vitality. Now, this one from Duskmourn is interesting. When you take a look at these cards, 1,060 sales, which is $4,558 of total sales action. The fact this card is $4.30 as a rare, and we're seeing a lot of rares now around the $5 level, kind of shows you that the restricted print runs are kind of having that cause and effect where not as many people are opening boxes, so the value of individual single cards is going up. Now this card is 2 green and 1 other mana. It is an Elk Glimmer enchantment creature with vigilance. Creatures you control have tap to add any 1 color of mana to your mana pool. When it dies, it comes back as an enchantment on the battlefield. So after you kill it, it's still coming back again. And that's the really interesting thing about these particular enchantment cards. There's a lot more sales going on across the board. I couldn't scope them all out, but the sheer volume of sales tells you these cards are being played a lot, and I am seeing them a lot now inside of Standard when I'm playing on Friday nights. I'm also seeing this stuff on Arena. So pay attention, have some fun with these cards. Great stuff. Now for our next card, we're going to take a look at the Untimely Malfunction, and this thing is starting to gain a little bit of traction. The value is starting to go up on this card. It's gained about $1 this month. Now, 1,102 sales is only $1,630.96 of total sales action for the actual card. It's not like it's some tremendous volume. But just like we saw with the Patchwork Banner, these cards are tending to trend up in value. They're being sought after, and it's an uncommon. Now, for one red and one other, Untimely Malfunction says, instant choose one. Destroy target artifact, change the target of target spell or ability with a single target, or you can, 1 or 2 target creatures can't block. That's quite a bit of versatility. That gives you a good spread of abilities for this card. And the fact it's so cheap still has players buying playsets of 4 over and over again. It's a card to pay attention to. Uncommons have been going up in value. Now for our next card, it's Arabella, the Abandoned Doll. This card's 50 cents, not a major money mover, 1,173 sales, which means it had $574.77 of sales action. The interesting wheel of color is important here. It is a white and a red, and it's a 1/3 legendary artifact creature toy. Now, there's something about this toy I really like, because it fits into my deck, of course, and I am using it, but let's take a closer look. This thing says, whenever Arabella Abandoned Doll attacks, it deals X damage to each opponent, and you gain X life, where X is the number of creatures you control with power 2 or less. Well, with all these ways of creating 1/1 tokens now, this card actually becomes pretty deadly if you know how to use it correctly. And there's a lot of builds right now trying to make this work a lot more with synergy, so it happens more often, not just the one-offs. So pay attention, this card is out there, guys, and it's so cheap. Buy 4. Now for our next card, it's the Overlord of Baal. This thing has killed me so many times on Arena right now that I'm glad it's here just so we can talk about it. 1,242 sales this week, which is $30,739.50, because this card is at $24.75. This is not a cheapie. Even though it's lost a lot of room, the more this gets played, the more it's going to be desired. It's a 5 casting cost 5/5. What does it do? Well, let's take a look. It's an enchantment creature avatar horror with impending 5, but it also has, whenever Overlord of Baal enters or attacks, mill 4 cards and then return a non-avatar creature card or a planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand. Yeah, this thing can do crazy stuff. You add that with the Surveil lands to make sure certain cards are going to your graveyard, and this becomes a lot more effective than you realize inside of Standard. Yeah, it's killed me so much, everyone. So many times. But I'm not bitter, I'm just curious. Now for our next card, we've got Withering Torment. This card's $2.10. Again, it's from Duskmourn. A lot of these cards are getting in now. A lot of players are starting to buy the cards with the prices dipping. 1,930 sales takes the number 3 spot. $4,053 of total sales action. So what are we getting for our money? Well, this card, it's kind of interesting because of how many players are using enchantments. They're using the doors. Cards like this are necessary, and that's keeping the value where they are. Now, Withering Torment does say, it's an instant speed, destroy target creature or enchantment, and you lose 2 life. It's the enchantment part that people really care about. There's lots of ways of killing creatures, like Get Lost and such, but when you look at this card, it's the fact it can kill off enchantments or creature, offering that versatility that players are looking for. And because it's only 1 black, it can be splashed into a lot of decks, and that means the sales on this card have been ramping up. But it's not the number 1 card, is it? No, it's not. Guys, let's take a look at our next card here. This is Enduring Innocence. Now, when we take a look at this card taking the number 2 spot this week, it has 2,134 sales. That's $9,304.24 of sales action, and the card's averaging $4.36 per copy. Now, if you look at this card carefully again, look at like the other kind of Enduring. It's got 2 white and 1 other, and it says Sheep Glimmer, and it's an enchantment creature with lifelink. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control with power 2 or less enter, draw a card. This ability triggers only once per turn, just like the other ones we've been talking about. When Enduring Innocence dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield as an enchantment. Guys, these cards are seeing a lot of action. Pair them off with like artist talent and ways of copying things. This card becomes pretty brutal, and it fits well with, of course, the red one and the white one. These go very well together, guys. Pay attention. Cheap cards that can be used a lot in Standard. Now, for the number 1 card this week, we have Gloom Wake Verge. Gloom Lake Verge. 2,300 sales, okay? Kind of crazy to see this thing coming in with $22,977 of total sales action. Now, this card lost a lot of value. So although the average right now is $9.99, it's not really that. A lot of these sales were happening at the $7 level, okay? I've recorded it to let you know that this is what the total value would be, but players bought it at a lot less. Now remember, this thing is just a land card, okay? It activates only if you control an island or a swamp. Now, if we use something like a polluted delta, this thing can't be fetched with a polluted delta. It's just a land card, because this one here says it will go for a swamp or an island, so you can't use it for everything, but that doesn't mean that players aren't utilizing this in various ways, like, of course, with dual lands in commander decks. I've seen it already, and it's kind of brutal. Now, let's get to the wrap-up here and discuss something. Sometimes some of the most amazing deals we find with these cards doesn't happen right away. It happens later when players really break down how these cards are used and find some of those secret, kind of hidden synergies you didn't really realize that were staring you in the face. Not only that, some of these prices are still pretty reasonable considering how some of these cards are being played, but they're going to rise in value. A few of these cards in particular, I think, will gain about 20% in value over the next month and maybe go higher just because Duskmourn is not being opened as readily as other cards. Now, I want to jump to the Duskmourn lands for a second. You saw the Gloom Lake, right, Verge. When you look at that lake card, we got to remember, like I said, it's a land. You can't go after it with fetch lands. But because of how it's used, you can still use it to actually kind of synergize and make sure some of you get a more even mana pool of cards by mixing with cards that do count as both. There are lots of options out there, including the Triomes, which means there's a whole slew of cards coming on board. And I did a video about this yesterday, so don't be afraid to go back and look at that video. But a lot of the Triomes, a lot of these cards are selling, along with a few staple cards like Mana Confluence. It didn't make the list this week, but out of the blue, it had like 500 and change sales, which is quite a lot for Mana Confluence. So it's cards to keep in mind like this, that a lot of land is selling, and the fact that this card took the #1 spot, and it was the one that was sold out in a lot of locations I checked with a lot of wish lists for it, not all of the cards are selling as well. Here in Canada, most of these land types from the Duskmourn block, they're going to run you about $8 Canadian, which is what, like $6 US, give or take. So it's a pretty reasonable price to get in at this level. It's not as low as the Surveil lands we saw and how much they've jumped up, but I'd just like to caution people, we don't know if these lands are going to go up in value yet, but we also don't know what synergies are coming down the line that allow these cards to be found. We don't know how they may come along later on. So getting a play set of 4, if they go cheaper or go to a price point you can get them at and find affordable for yourself in your Magic budget, is important, because you want to have the best pool of mana you can to make your deck ideas come to life, to make your playing time that much more fun. Because I'll know when I saw players mixing them with dual lands, and of course we don't all have dual lands, I was really surprised how well it fit in, and the fetch lands get the duals, and then the duals activate the Verge lands. It was pretty interesting to see that they get these 5-color commander decks off pretty smoothly for the most part. Anyway, thanks again for hanging out with me on the channel today. Hope you guys had a blast as much as I did preparing the video, and I'll look forward to seeing you guys for the reserve list top 10 tomorrow. We're going to have a blast with that. A reminder though, we do not have the live stream this weekend. We're going to have it on Monday because Sunday, or even today on Saturday, I'm not here right now. I recorded this very early, and I'm going to see like in-laws and family for like the Canadian Thanksgiving weekend. Thank you for your patience. I will have videos up though. Nothing will be missed. I maybe just won't be commenting as much in the comment sections because I'm eating turkey or I'm falling asleep. Either way, thanks again for stopping by. Guys, have a great day today. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Well, probably about 12 hours from now. Guys, have a great one. We'll see you soon. And of course, a thank you and a big shout out goes out to every single one of my patrons. Now, if you're one of my patrons, thank you for your patience. I am getting close to putting the card list together on an Excel sheet so we can see all the cards we've been purchasing to put up there in case any of these cards spike. I will be having it done soon, so thanks again to my patrons and YouTube membership members. Guys, have a great one. We'll see you with the video tomorrow. Enjoy the day. Welcome back to the Ramble Jamble, guys. So, I just want to make it clear here at the end of the video, if you made it this far, if you're on my Patreon, strictly the Patreon, and you're there, these cards will be listed at some point in the next couple of weeks. I did that in the post-credit thing there. But what I'll do is I'll have a spreadsheet. You'll know the prices that I paid, and that means there's no negotiation. That's what the price will be, but the price will never change. I don't think I bought all these cards at the lowest price they're ever going to be, but I got them when I had money to make the deal. So cards like, some are reserve list, some are not. Like Damping Fields, just in case, they've been as high as $75. Griffin Canyon. We have Urza's Caves, because these could spike later. There's more Griffin Canyons. Thawing Glaciers, Seeds of Innocence, Soldevi Diggers, Frolicking Familiar, Heart of Yavimaya, Anzarag the Mole God, River Song. Not, like I said, these cards may not be pricey yet, but if they ever spike, you don't have to worry about purchasing them, because you can buy one from me at the lowest price. I will lock the prices in wherever I bought them at. If I paid $1.25 for a card, I don't care if that card goes to $50. You're paying $1.25 because you're a patron. It won't change. And the cards will stay listed. The numbers will be modified, which means as they get sold, I will take them off the list. And if there's some kind of spiking surge on these cards, if I buy a card for like $1 and it becomes a $50 card, reminder to follow the rules on that I posted up on the Patreon. But not only that, when this list goes live, it will be first come, first serve. So whoever happens to send me an email first, say, I want to buy one of these cards, Moxman, can you ship it to me? And I'll send you the PayPal payment thing. It's first in, first out. Okay? Like, I'm not, but it's a limit of 1 anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it just means if I only had 10 copies of something, but 50 people try to buy it, remember, it's going to be the first 10. Just to be fair, there's no other way of doing it right now. But I will try to buy multiple copies of cards. I am trying. It's whenever I have extra cash, whenever we've paid the bills here, I'm putting that aside. Okay? Guys, thanks again for hanging out. I'll have this stuff up soon. The list is getting bigger. I have more cards coming, so I'll wait for those to kind of come in, and then we have like 20, 30 cards on the list, and then you guys can take a gander. All right? And it would be cool to see if any of these cards spike in the next 5 years to see what happens. Because then if a card goes to like $50, but you've only got to pay $1.25, it'll be hilarious. Because then you didn't have to worry about buying into a FOMO event. You can just buy from the channel. I think that's going to be great. I think it's a good idea. Right? Now you guys will let me know. Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great one.